Let's go off the grid. Okay. Let's go off the grid. Okay. I know that you really want to put your phone away. Yeah. Let's go off the grid.
Hello, and welcome to Off the Grid, a podcast about sharing your work and making money online without relying on social media, big tech, or any of the extractive algorithms and AI tools out there. I'm your host, Amelia Ruby, and right now we are doing a mini-series all about teaching and selling classes, workshops, and courses online as a part of your creative business. I'm hosting this mini-series because I am preparing to teach a 3-day intensive called Come to Class, How to Teach and Sell Online with Confidence and Care. And I am thrilled to inform you the registration is now open, and it will be open through May 12th. So you can head to the show notes to check out the sales page to sign yourself up. It's going to be an amazing 3-day intensive happening March 14th, 15th, and 16th. There is also a little optional prep session happening on the 13th. There are follow-up office hours on the 21st. There's the opportunity to submit questions to me through the end of the month. There are so many ways to engage and come to class because I want more of us to be teaching and selling online and making money by sharing the things that we know and love how to do. So head to the show notes, learn more about Come to Class. And while you do that, let me tell you about my guest today and what we're going to talk about. Sally Burns spent over a decade in corporate e-learning before leaving all that behind to start The Portal. The Portal is a digital learning neighborhood where you can handcraft engaging resources, workshops, and group study programs as part of a wider ecosystem of people who believe in livable futures for all of us. It's for creators who want to host live events, run private learning groups, and build meaningful relationships within and beyond their existing communities. I have to say that as an experiencer and now creator in The Portal, I love what Sally is creating, and in today's conversation, we are going to get into so much. Sally and I are going to talk about why she left corporate e-learning to build The Portal, and then go through a pretty involved breakdown of why we do not like Money Networks, Kajabi, Teachable, or so many of the online learning platforms out there. And, sometimes it's not them, it's us, but I have to say that I have talked to so many people who want to teach and sell online, and they're always asking me, should I be on Circle? Should I be in Money Networks? Should I do this in Slack? Should I have a Discord? And what I have found through all those conversations is quite simple and very annoying, which is that none of us like the existing options, and we're still waiting for someone to build something better. So that's why I was really excited to talk to Sally today to understand what The Portal is and how it might be the thing that we have been waiting for. As Sally tells us about The Portal, we're also going to talk about the regenerative ethos that she brings to online learning and how she's designed The Portal so it can help you fill your classes, especially if you have a small audience, and so it can rejuvenate some of your older resources, recordings, workbooks, workshops, if you want them to have a second or third or fourth life. I am thrilled to have Sally here on the podcast and thrilled to be partnering with her and The Portal to create some special perks for Come to Class students. So if you join us in Come to Class, you will get a 6-week free trial of The Portal and be able to come to some fun Build With Us sessions where Sally and I will be creating resources there together. So head to the link in the show notes to check out The Portal. Head to the link in the show notes to check out Come to Class. And for now, let's dive in to my conversation with Sally Burns of The Portal. Hi, Sally. Welcome to Off the Grid.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
I am very excited you're here to talk to us all about e-learning, which I feel like even saying that word, I'm like, well, but also like, do we use the prefix e anymore? I guess we talk about ebooks, but I'm like, for a while when the internet was more new, everything was like e-conferences and e-this and e-that. And now I'm like, oh yeah, we kind of got rid of that language. It feels a little antiquated, as does e-learning sometimes. So I'm very excited to dive into this conversation with you, both to talk about sort of your background in e-learning and the ways that you are, I think, trying to like revolutionize online community and educational spaces right now. So, can you take us back to the beginning and just tell listeners a little bit about your background with corporate e-learning? How did you get into that space and what did you learn there?
Yeah, firstly, I'm very aware of how dull e-learning sounds as, as a place that I came from. So I started really early. Before I kind of got into this, I'd had around 16 years designing and developing online learning for corporate companies. So I started when I was about 21. And I kind of worked my way around different roles enough to kind of see a lot of different things, a lot of different ways that things were done. And I kind of moved up. So I was designing and developing for kind of quite big corporations, big names, online learning for them, and then made my way to be a technical lead, and then moved over to kind of the platform side. So the place that, and this is another really dull way to put it, but learning management systems, which went on to become learning experience platforms. So really understanding the environment that they were taking the learning and how important that was as well, which is kind of a key piece as to what I then went on to. But yeah, that was a really, really good time I learned a lot, which I've then brought into this world. And so the kind of company that I kind of spent most of my time with was really at the forefront of kind of disrupting e-learning anyway. So really trying to change, this whole kind of sit down and just watch a video and then tick to complete. We were kind of disrupting that anyway, and trying to make things as interactive and as engaging as possible. So really kind of bringing in storytelling, bringing in kind of activities, ways that people would, be engaged with it, want to finish it, obviously then actually learn about it and bring it into their kind of wider lives or into their jobs. And video didn't, it was kind of a no-no to have video. If you had video, it was like 5 minutes and you'd have it at the beginning. And then you'd go on to have, as I say, kind of these much more interactive elements in the screen, really breaking out content, things that you can kind of click and reveal. So just things that made the learner stop and pause and kind of take it in. So very much as I was kind of coming to an end of that time, it kind of went from learning management systems to learning experience platforms. And these were like much more kind of vibey hubs, places that, people logged into and they wanted to log into, and it was part of their work. And then colleagues were there as well. There was a lot of kind of gamification. And they were giving autonomy to kind of create the learning that they wanted and needed in that moment. So sort of a lot more responsive to their needs. There was a lot more well-being stuff coming in at that point, kind of stress relief modules and kind of micro learning bits. So yeah, it was really kind of changing and becoming much more exciting, even that when I kind of then moved over to this side of things.
Yeah, to me, learning management system is a maybe unsexy way to talk about the architecture of how we learn. And it actually matters so much because the same information can be presented in different ways. And how it is presented, how it is scaffolded, will determine if a student or learner can take it in, can implement it, can work with it, can put it into practice. And, I don't have a background in corporate e-learning, but I do have a background in university education. And I have used so many of the learning management systems as a student and a teacher in universities. I was in Canvas, I was in Moodle. When I was in grad school at DePaul, I think we used D2L, which is like Desire to Learn. And so my experience was like I was teaching and learning in the classroom, and then the learning management system was there for like assignments, it was there for quizzes, it was there for forums to interact with other students. And it became the architecture of like how the learning happens alongside and beyond this in-person class. And so I was already thinking and like working with all of that when I then like moved into self-employment and moved into teaching online through like the phenomena of an online course. And I think that there are similarities, but also very big differences when we're thinking about corporate e-learning or university e-learning and online courses in the more just like general D2C or B2C space. Because when I think about like, oh, I want to start a course as a business owner, I'm thinking about where am I going to set that up? That's my first question, right? And I'm like, maybe I'll go to Teachable, maybe I'll go to Kajabi, maybe I'll do, what are other options like School or Circle, or, my courses and things are set up in the Thrivecart Learn portal or whatever. And something I've been realizing as I sort of dissect and deconstruct how I teach to prepare to teach this class on teaching is that jump from like, I want to teach something to I need to find the platform for it, I think actually just erases all of the work of the architecture of learning. Like if you go straight to platform, you're not designing an educational experience. You're like being like, can I put a video here? Can I put a button here? Like you're going right to the technology of it, like the gamification, the widgetification of the educational experience, instead of really digging into like, what is the scaffolding a person needs to learn to get from where we're starting to where I want them to end up? And I'm curious, for any reflections you have on that, or how, maybe realizations similar to that helped you decide to build a different kind of online learning platform.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. It was the kind of, for me, so when I started consulting with small business owners that were trying to kind of they were getting their face-to-face offers online, or they'd created something that they wanted help to improve. It was the tools that really kind of tied my hands and made me think, oh, this is why what they're producing isn't very good, because there was no flexibility, and it was all kind of linear menu, start to finish, down the left-hand side, video, PDF download. And for many of the people that I was working with, they didn't want that. And so they were trying to like shoehorn it in to the platform. And they weren't able to deliver the experience that they needed unless they were then kind of adding in loads of different platforms and trying to kind of mishmash the experience. So, you'd have like a WhatsApp group, and then you'd have something on Kajabi, and then sometimes, you'd have a library on Dropbox of meditation. Like it was just
Yeah.
really disjointed and totally confusing for the end learner, especially I think at a time when you would sort of like be part of 6 different courses. And so for the learner, you were sort of on about 10 different platforms as it was. And then also, for the kind of creator, they were just like, weren't able to deliver the experience that they needed. And as you say, to kind of make sure that the person was able to finish that learning in the appropriate way and to kind of get to the end and to have digested it enough to have the course do what it said it was going to do, or have the course help them in the way that they were promised. So there was kind of, lots of things letting them down, really.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely relate to piecing all the things together. I'm even currently doing that in the Interweb membership, right? We have a Slack and we have a Thrivecart resource library. But, when you click buttons in that resource library, a lot of them will pop you to a Dropbox link because that's what I can use to host the PDFs and things. There are embedded videos. And I loved what you said earlier, too. Like, I very clearly remember being told, like, do not put video in your courses because it's not skimmable and scannable. And like working with university students, people were like, they aren't going to watch this. I'm not actually sure that's so true anymore. Like now I do include video because people want it.
But I think as well, you're able to kind of, because we have videos, and I encourage, put the recording of your workshop within a resource and build it out around it, because you need the kind of environment around it to then sit and watch it. Like give people an introduction as to what they're about to experience and how they might want to be sitting, and get some water, get a blanket, we'll be covering this. Here are some key points if you weren't able to finish it. So there's kind of like a real care around that video, then I think it makes sense and we can kind of do a really good job of that. But I think the way in which Kajabi and Teachable, and they've changed over the years as well, actually, because of this kind of feedback and this, a lot of distrust kind of came out around this course buying. As you say, they're really structured and not flexible, and you're unable to kind of set that environment that then makes it, a nice way to watch video. And we're all addicted to our screens and able to watch some video, just maybe not 6 hours worth.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think so much, again, to keep using these words about like the architecture of learning is the contextualization of it. And like part of what I want to do in Come to Class is help people think about how do you invite people into a virtual space? What type of time do you take to ask them to attend to their bodies, invite them to arrive in a certain way, tell them what's going to come and happen in this before you begin? Like those elements are often quite simple, but so overlooked. And I also find that a lot of people, when they want to start teaching online, recreate either the like problematic dynamics of whatever like college experience they had, like the previous classroom learning they've done, or they're just kind of like copying stuff they've seen other people do in classes that they take. And it's not that that's bad per se, like we all learn from each other, but it means that like if you do either one of those things, you're never actually sitting down and being like, how do I want to hold space? How do I want to invite people into learning? I'm getting ahead of myself here because I want to go back to your story. This is an episode about everything wrong with e-learning, but it is not just like Amelia's personal gripes. So got to come to class for that. But I want to go back, Sally, though, to this time where so you had this like long background in corporate e-learning. During the pandemic, you're seeing everybody start to teach online, realizing that the available options for how to like sell or structure a course are like really problematic, have all these sort of flaws and failures. And you decided to build something else. So can you take us to that moment? Like what made you decide to start the portal and what have you built from there?
One of the things that used to really wind me up was the sales page, right? Being this big shiny thing and promising, to change your life. And I remember every time I'd be like, wow, this must be amazing, this course. I wonder what they're using. And I'd buy it and I'd be like, oh no, it's just videos. So that's kind of one of the influences, was this culture that I found needed challenging. And then also, the tools that kind of were available. But the kind of culture piece being, firstly, the whole kind of passive income. You get to make money in your sleep, 10K months, which, with inflation is now 30K months, I think, is now what kind of big coaches are saying you can make. So, you've got people that have potentially left their kind of jobs, that are kind of persuaded that they can start a business and just launch a course around bringing up their baby. And it's okay because they'll just be selling that course in their sleep. And don't get me wrong, I wanted them to succeed. Absolutely. I want you to be able to make a course and to be able to start your business and for it to be that easy. But it's not that easy. And again, I'm kind of, these are my complaints that led into it, was this kind of hierarchical learning again. Like, I'm a guru, expert, leader in this space. You're the student and you're kind of just listening to me. And then we finish and then that's it. And it kind of just took away this, firstly, that's not how we learn, which again is kind of these issues that we have, you've taken away that kind of peer-to-peer piece. And it also doesn't allow for what is the best thing about learning, which is like we're spiraling together. We're kind of constantly learning, right? We're learning from each other. I, as an instructor, have just as much to learn from you as you have to learn from me. As I say, Kajabi and Teachable, with those platforms, it's about you taking a course from one person on one topic potentially on your own. You might have a kind of a group. It's in a vacuum, there's no kind of edge being touched there or explored. And so again, it takes away, it's not the environment that we need to collectively grow again and learn, or it's not the best environment for that. So then kind of there's like Mighty Networks and Circle and things that started to bring in kind of that community element. Again, it's just, that you're running your business individually like that. So those that are just kind of starting their businesses could do that. They could create a course and use Circle, Mighty Networks, but then where do they get people to take the course? So you're then forced to kind of go find your audience on social media, grow it there, then bring them over to something like Mighty Networks or something like Circle. So, you have to have kind of an audience before you do that. So I think, again, it kind of takes away this experimentation of those just starting out, and therefore really kind of key voices that should be given a space and a voice to begin. And whether you are a learner or you want to create something, I think we should all kind of be starting off in the same place. So kind of on this like level playing field, and you can kind of share a practice, but not have to start an entire business in order to kind of contribute to the ways in which we need to grow and support each other.
Yeah, this is so interesting. Okay. So what I was hearing you say is like there are these problems with online learning in the sort of like online business, wellness, spirituality space that we inhabit, right? During the pandemic, we saw people spin up these courses. They made huge promises, which then suggests to you that something really exciting and interesting is happening. And it's just the same old PDF. It's the same old videos. It's like, it's not going to change your life, actually. So one problem we've seen is just like so many online course sales pages are over promising and under delivering once you actually get into the course. Another problem we see is the hierarchical nature of how things are sold and taught online, where it's very like, here's the expert and they know everything and you're just going to listen to them talk. And like, that's all that's going to happen here. And I can say like some of that does come from the liberal education model, right? Like the professors in the classroom, they know everything. Their job is to literally lecture at you and you should learn from that. Like that's a move from university learning into online learning or e-learning. It wasn't invented in that space, right? I mean, it also comes out of, for like the spiritual and wellness spaces, comes out of, religious traditions where the charismatic leader is the head of the religion, is the one that we listen to. So that like hierarchical nature of learning is deeply ingrained in a lot of educational practices, but we really see it online. It's amplified by, I think, the influencer economy, where influencers become these aspirational figures who are held up as the teachers, and then they sell these sometimes just like frankly bullshit courses that aren't about transformation, aren't about helping anybody do anything else. They're just about making money for the person to like share some vague ideas. Maybe that's a little harsh, but I think it's real. I'm just putting it out there. So I heard you talk about those two issues. And the third issue that you spoke to, I think this is where like we really get into something that's like unique about the portal or really interesting to me, because the third issue is that like sometimes people just want to teach a class and they don't want to have to build an entire business to sell and teach a class, right? Sometimes you're just really good at making jewelry and you want to have a jewelry making class. Or maybe you just like really have this journaling practice that you're like, this is it. And I've done it with some friends and they love it. And now I'd love to like teach this online, host it somewhere I could sell it or pass it to other people. And I am not trying to, build an email list of 1,000 people just so I can sell this little journaling workshop that I love. So when we talk about those three issues, then what I see, knowing the portal from my perspective at this point, right, is that like the portal is this sort of open space for learning. So anyone can come and set up their courses or classes there. It gathers learners. So you don't have to bring your own audience. You can benefit from the audience that's already there, signed up to experience these things. And you're able to set up your materials in a way that is very flexible. You can add a lot of context around them. It's really more like a web page than it is like a, strict course platform I've been in. There is no like left-hand side bar where you have to like put in modules and lessons. You can kind of build it in flow. You can embed video there. You can have audio. You can have these really fun flip cards that you have. And so I think in these ways, the portal is trying to be the answer to these like issues that we've identified with e-learning. There are no super lengthy sales pages in the portal, so you don't get that same degree of overpromising that can happen in the online business space. There is a full interdependent network, so no one is held up as the same like guru expert way in the portal. It's more like a course catalog when you get in there as an experiencer. And then in the design of how you set up courses as a creator or workshops or classes there, it's much more flexible and fluid. And so those are like the direct connections I'm making between your diagnosis of issues with online learning and then what you've built in the portal. So with all of that really lengthy introduction in mind, I just want to ask you then to sort of like introduce folks to the portal as you see it right now. Like, who is it for? What do you do there? And what does it offer?
Thank you for explaining my business so well as well.
I got you. I got it.
The portal began as a kind of response to those things that we've spoke about in terms of kind of what the problems were, but the platforms, the tools, what I saw as limiting. And then end of 2023, the genocide in Gaza began, and I became very repoliticized, I would say. And along with many around me, everything became like, what are we doing? There was kind of like no more business as usual. It just, everything just unraveled in a sort of, what do I have to share? Why does it mean anything? And those kinds of feelings coming up. And so just before COVID happened, I did a kind of permaculture design course, and a lot of kind of what that framework teaches, kind of looking at nature as our guide, is that kind of all of these problems are interconnected, and so are all of the solutions. And this whole kind of linear approach to trying to find a solution won't work. And it started to feel like this was a huge influence to what we were building, in that people wanted spaces to, firstly, were looking for spaces to be, and to kind of just to be, actually. There was no like, I want to learn how to make six figures anymore. It was like, I need to be held in a circle of people that understand what is, how this feels. But then also people bringing forward, practices that would help in that moment, or visions of what we could imagine that is better. So kind of bringing in like the work of Bell Hooks, or the work of Rob Hopkins, or, how can we use imagination as a tool? So everyone in that circle was bringing forward kind of different pieces to add to this kind of learning community that we were building. That then kind of fitted that piece of wanting to create something that allowed that interconnectivity and allowed us to collaborate with our work in order to kind of build something better, I suppose. And so on the portal, we call it a digital learning neighborhood. And you can build out, like people build, someone at the moment is building out like a 10-month program. Again, that kind of is about reclaiming your imagination, actually. Monthly Sunday service sessions. So they're kind of live sessions, and then there'll be resources on the portal. There's people that run memberships that have the community space, and they'll add like monthly prompts, and then they'll have a library of practices that they add to that people can kind of jump into. Or you have like 6-week study groups. You have texts that people are studying, and they study it in, groups of 6, and then discuss it for longer in the community. And then you also have people who are just beginning, who might share like a workshop, see how that lands. They feel like, okay, there's people here that understand, we're on the same, I feel like what I'm bringing fits here. I'm going to test that out with this workshop. And what we really want, and what we found, is like this great kind of cross-pollination in that you'll get people attending one program, they meet other people, there's a natural networking there, and then they go start their own community group, and people go, oh, I'm going to join that. So you kind of got a 10% cross-pollination of people going into different places. At the moment, it's kind of done manually in a way. It's what we encourage. So you come teach on my course. I'd love you to do a workshop with me. We host collaboration opportunities and whatever. But for the big vision for the portal, once we kind of have the funds, you'll be able to cross collaborate with people as part of kind of the platform. So, if you're running your course, you could take in a module from someone else that's kind of hosting it for something else, and kind of borrow it and put it into yours. So you're able to kind of enhance your program and the learning for kind of the end learner in that way. So again, it's that cross-pollination collaboration bit.
Yeah, I really appreciate even just how you've answered this question, because my brain obviously started from the place of like, here's everything that's broken in e-learning, and here's how the portal will fix it. And then your brain is like, here's everything that's broken in the world and in, online gathering together. Like, I think that you came from I came from the perspective of like what's broken for teachers. And you're like, okay, but also what's broken for students, right? They're disconnected. They can't find the instructors that are deeply like tender and transformative. There's not a space where they can gather many tools from a diversity of perspectives, right? Like everyone just has to go to like the one expert and then find a bunch of them. And where's a space like that they can really be embedded in their values, right? Like where you began was like, I was repoliticized because of the genocide in Gaza, and I wanted to build in a way that brought a totally different value system. Like I love that the word polycrisis is all over the portal website. I think that to me is like something that is like very, very different between what you're doing and the typical like SaaS, software as a service tech platforms that are like built for online courses, right? The Kajabis and et cetera of the world. They're not rooting in to liberatory values in a public way. They're not building from a like ecosomatic influence in the way that you are. And I think that that's really different. I also sort of want to ask you and highlight for people that like you are bootstrapping this with the support of the community. It is not VC funded. It is not like fancy constant build outs and changes and all of this. And something that I try to talk about, but I think is really important for listeners to hear is like, if we want different solutions, if we want different options for our businesses, if we actually want to operate from a different value system, we also have to work with platforms who are building as they go. We have to work with people who are like, this is what we have so far. This is what I want. Like you said, I want the collaborative aspects of this, but I can't get there until more people buy in here. And even myself, I notice like I will have a very high standard for the tools that I'll use in my business, but that means I'm like disregarding and totally not considering tools that are still trying to make it work, tools where I maybe actually can know the founder or like trust that person. I don't know who the hell runs Thrivecart, and which was what I use. I don't know who the hell owns Slack. Like, these tools I'm using, I'm sure if I dug deep enough, I'd be like, yikes. And so, yes, I find them to be like very reliable and like they build out new features and all of this, but also this has become the problem with Substack, right? Is people are like, oh, they have all the functionality I want, but the people who run it and their VC funds are awful. And what do I do about that? So that's kind of a tangent, but I'm curious if you could speak a little bit to like, how did you start building this tech and how are you finding the money to do it as you go?
Yeah, it's hard to get that across. I think I, too, fussy on the technologies that I use. And then, so I find it really hard. Sometimes I see some people sign up to the portal and I'm like, no, not now. You can't see it now. It's not ready. But I have to let that go. So yeah, I bootstrapped and community funded. Basically did a kind of first build over on LearnWorlds. So it's a learning management system course creator one. And I did it there because I could host like different creators' content, but I was like manually doing it for them and then they got paid. And that grew like really quickly. People really wanted it. It was kind of really proved a concept. And then so we were able to, basically we had community members invest around £45,000 and then the rest I bootstrapped and I took it to a development company to begin basically to be like, please can they do it themselves because I can't do it myself anymore and we want these kind of other things and to be able to grow and not have to rely on someone else's technology, obviously. So that's where we are and we launched that in October. And by that point, because we're kind of victims of our own success in a way, in that it was an MVP, a minimal viable product, but very much serving people with established businesses or who are running their businesses through it. So we've had to kind of enhance it as we go with the money made. So it's a slow process, but it also means that we're kind of building it with the community. We've been able to, integrate with Stripe so that people there's like international payments and people are able to kind of have their tax sorted in that way and whatnot. So recently we released a couple of new features that just like made the dashboard tidier, like the live sessions are on their own tab now. just kind of like little things like that. It's quite painful sometimes how slow it is, the progress, because it's still, it's just me marketing, and I don't want to be on Instagram. I really don't. Whenever I go back on there now, it doesn't align to what we're doing. But yeah, it's just me marketing. And it's like until you get a big injection of cash, you either kind of go for that big injection of cash, that would mean giving it, going for VC funding, or you do it slowly like this, in which case you have to kind of keep asking people, can you compromise on your tech to not compromise on your values and help us build this thing? So there's a lot of that going on. And I think until you are able to deliver that message really well, which we have, I do struggle to explain exactly what the portal is. Yeah, it was probably going to be, a slow grow, but we're getting there. I think there's a few tipping points happening, just kind of with collaborations that are coming up. And so, yeah, a lot of people kind of signing up to it.
I want to be clear that you have so many supportive and beautiful features already. Like the path I took in that I would recommend to others is head to the link in the show notes. There's a special Off the Grid link to learn more about the portal. Watch some of the videos, read the stuff there, sign up to become an experiencer, grab a bunch of free resources or the free classes and things in the portal, and then, watch them, enjoy them, see how they're put together. Join the circle so that you can meet some other people who are building there. And then once you get a sense of like, okay, I like these sorts of things, seems to be cool and is working well, then sign up to become a creator and just try something out there. So what the path I'm taking in is that I'm hosting 2 book clubs this spring for friends of the show who have new books coming out. So one for Becky Mollenkamp's Liberate Your Business and one for Shannon Algio's The Power in Your Hands, which is a book about social media and attachment theory. And I offered to host a book club for them just through Off the Grid because they're trying to sell their books and they're great books and they're very related to the topic of the podcast. And so in my mind, I was like, well, I'll just put up a Zoom RSVP link and like, that'll just be what it is. Like, and then like, I'll put it up, I'll record it to the cloud. I'll send out the recording to the people who like sign up and RSVP, and then it'll just be kind of done, like over. And with the portal, I was like, oh no, I could actually like have the recordings in there. I could build out a space around the book. It could come with all these links, like the sort of things that I used to just do like over email, very one-off, only for the people who found it when it was happening and then never for anybody else. Now I see that those things can live in the portal where there's actually a community that will be exploring and looking for resources there. Because the other thing for me has been like, I could put that book club recording on my website. I don't have enough traffic to my website. Like people aren't actually looking at it. I've put so many low-cost workshops and things on my website and like nobody buys the recordings. But I can put them in the portal either for free or low cost and people will find like there's a community of people looking for stuff like that there. So, I'm someone who has online courses set up. I have a membership set up. Like I have my own infrastructure for that. I'm not going to move my whole podcast course into the portal because frankly, that would be a nightmare for me. Like it is left-hand side menu, so many modules. Like it's very much built in that way. And for a linear journey like starting a podcast, I think that's fine. But for all this other stuff that I feel like I create and then it just disappears from my world, I'm so excited to bring it to the portal and to be like putting it there. And also, hopefully some new people who've never heard of Becky or me will come to the book club because they saw it on the portal, right? So that's kind of been my way in. And I think that there's so much that I'm finding and that can be built there. And yes, there are moments where I'm like, why can't I sort the library like this? But also then I just say to myself, because this website also says polycrisis. Like quite literally, you know what I mean? It's like, I remember I talked to Elise Granada about this a little bit over a year ago now when we had a conversation about community on the podcast. And it was like, there's a certain point where we have to adjust. Like if we keep all of our standards at the level of friction-free VC-funded tech, nothing will change. Like if that's where the standard stays, we will only ever be able to use tools by people that we loathe and disagree with. We have to shift the expectation. And that doesn't mean use shitty tools. It doesn't mean accept when founders are mean to you. Like I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying like, it's okay that I can't sort the library in one particular idiosyncratic way. That's actually perfectly acceptable friction. And I like that you're bootstrapping and building the portal in this way. And I like that you're open about like, there's functionality that I want, and it will come as people get bought in. This is also how I suggest people build other businesses. It's like the only way to build a giant infrastructure without people in it is to get funding from an outside source. And the way people have that much money is by doing other problematic things, right? So we have to build as we go. And that means that we have to like adjust alongside that.
Yeah, friction free is something that comes up a lot in terms of the tools. So it's kind of like a Notion-like tool that you build out blocks of content. So you haven't seen the creator side yet, have you? So it's very much, like blocks. And then you kind of put in, you can have like colored background blocks. You can do like audio notes, or as you say, then you've got fun things like flip cards, you've got accordions. So I'm kind of building out this multimedia page. And I think like we love to say it's like reclaiming our attention and our creativity. And it's like a slow handcrafting process where you are forced to think, what am I doing? Or it's like an unfurling of your learning and kind of like how you're deciding to kind of put it onto the screen, which I think is something nourishing for you as a creator as well as for the final learner. It's like giving us something that we've lost, I think, from tech, which is like this fun element, I guess. It's like that MySpace, I get to build my environment and it doesn't have to look the same as everyone else's. And, I can, do fun things like the flip cards. So people might use the flip cards for like journal prompts. So it's kind of like making the experience a pause and kind of think about things. And then for them as a creator as well, I think that's a nourishing thing for them to do. Okay, how can I put these journaling prompts into this resource in a way that really makes people sit down and think it through and take some time. So it's like, I don't know, it's bringing something different to the internet, I like to think.
Yeah. When I experience the recordings or the pieces that I found in the portal that I'm watching or enjoying, there's something about it that both feels like early internet, because there's like all these different background colors. Like it feels a little bit like, I've stumbled upon a GeoCities page, but also like innovative and different, because I think the flip cards are something I don't see in other online learning platforms. And the way that it's integrating so many different types of materials and inviting instructors and teachers and coaches and guides to really think about, like you said, how you're moving someone through.
I would love there to be kind of elements where you're able to bring the learning onto the live calls and kind of interact with it there. And I think that kind of brings it a bit more alive. But I was saying earlier how we kind of have this fake community vibe on Instagram, right? Or on social media. And then we have our learning over on Teachable. And it's the bringing together that is like what we're trying to create. And it will also kind of create an environment, hopefully, that improves upon those two places as well.
I do think there are a lot of ways to be very interactive on a Zoom call. And this is part of what I'm interested in come to class, and I don't do any of the gimmicky ones. Like I don't do polls. I don't do any of the actual appified stuff they teach. But even just in the interweb, I am a very chat focused, reaction heavy. That's what I encourage in our spaces, and people do that. And it makes it feel more alive. It makes it feel more participatory. And I think even that makes all the difference in how a space, like a virtual space, feels. And at the end of the day, I'm still thinking of these things, even in the way I've set up the interweb. We have the live calls where there's a certain type of learning and sharing happening. We have Slack where there's a different type of conversational flow happening. I wouldn't even call it learning. I'd probably call it connection more so. And then we have our online resource library. I don't think it's bad to have separate spaces, because I actually think they function quite differently and they have different uses for people. But I think maybe some of it is being really specific about what learning is, because not every online gathering is for learning, right? And there's a difference between teaching and facilitating that I'm also trying to help people begin to see. And so I love that you've built the portal from your background in learning so it can be an educational space. And I think that's different than trying to be, a place for co-working or a place for chatting or a place for something else.
There's this like regeneration piece as well, like being able to refresh content in the way that you have said kind of about workshops that have, potentially gone and died or are collecting dust on your website, of being able to reuse that and put it in a place that's kind of organic and can be brought back alive again. But also, so if that's marked as free, people being able to take that and use that in their own work as well. So as long as kind of your name goes with it, and if you're happy with it, then being able to put that module or whatnot into their course. There's this piece of regeneration, reciprocity, just kind of like building like a better way to do things again, I guess. And so one of the, again, once we have our full vision funding, is to give a lot more for the experiences to be able to do. So we have creators and we have experiences, and experiences are what we call users. And we want them to be able to kind of have their own profiles on the portal where they can create their own like learning paths. So, or we'll just call them paths, but say they can take a mixture of creators' content and put together their own paths that they want to experience over 2 weeks or over a month or however long they want to experience it for. So say if I, as a mother to 2 young kids, have a deadline in 2 weeks that's, a public speaking thing, here are all of the resources that I need to get through the next 2 weeks. And I can kind of build that from different creators. And then potentially I can follow creators. I could then also share that path that I've kind of built together as a kind of public, almost like a kind of Goodreads thing. So it's like experiences are given just as much autonomy and get to play with the platform as much as creators do. They're not just like passively experiencing content. They're kind of part of the shaping, because again, if we go back to that kind of hierarchy piece that we're talking about, we don't want that. We want everyone to be kind of muddling in and creating together. And then if you then kind of feel like, okay, this is something that I would like to share and charge for, and, I've actually got a course that I want to put together, then, potentially you then become a creator and kind of put something and sell it in that way. So yeah, again, just kind of creating tools that we can keep building something better with.
Yeah, I mean, I love those visions. I think it's a very cool way to sort of build off of the like personal curriculum trends that has happened over the past year, right? People could come into the portal and build a curriculum for themselves. That could become a shareable thing. And, I love like book clubs and study groups in those ways, right? Not just that you could do that for yourself, but that you could gather other people around you to like go through a particular curriculum or study something in the portal together. And as a creator, if there's a space where that's a standard norm, that's the culture of it, those are the norms of it, and then like people are going through my work without me having to be present, like what a gift. And I also love this idea of the regenerativity of the space. I like that it's not centered on when each thing was created, such that things feel dated, right? I think that's like one of the big harms of social media, right? Is that like your content just churns so fast and nothing from the past ever resurfaces. It's one of the reasons people like YouTube, because things do resurface there. You can have a video that has years and years of longevity with how many views. And if you monetize, like you can make money off of things for a really long time. And it feels like in the portal, you can kind of build in that sort of like, I would love to see, recommended things that are surfacing recommendations for people way from the past, not even knowing it. They feel present. It doesn't matter if that was put up 5 years ago. Like, this is something I even did on my own website. I took all the dates off my blog posts because I was like, who cares?
Yeah.
This stuff, like, particularly on the Softer Sounds one, I have a free resources blog. I'm like, why tell someone this was published in 2021 when the information is still accurate? It's very timely. And if they know it's 5 years old, that's going to give them a certain immediate impression of it. And in fact, I can just not tell them when it went live because it doesn't actually impact the information. That's like a bias we have for newness. So I love hearing that kind of built in. And I do want to put some of the ththings that I've already created, like the class I taught on how to run your creative business during a recession. That lived on my website for a while. And then frankly, no one ever bought it. It was only $29, but I don't think a single person purchased it off my website. I wasn't really sending traffic there. It was just there. But I think it's something that in the portal could be like a beautiful resource and people might find. And that's one of the ways I'm really trying to lean into this is like the regenerativity, because it's something I can't create solo in my own ecosystem. I actually need to like enter a bigger ecosystem for that to work. And that's one of the things that excites me about the portal that we've talked about today. So, Sally, as we wrap up, is there anything we haven't discussed about the portal that you'd like to share with listeners now?
I'm sure I've missed 100 and different things. I find it so hard to explain what it is because it's an alive thing and because it is totally different to what has already been created. So I think I just encourage you to experience it. So you did such a great job at kind of giving that how you would tell people to come in. I will also say it's free to experience. So you can sign up and see lots of different free content from lots of different creators. You can enjoy those different practices, workshops, anti-capitalist pricing workshop, and then come into our community, which is easy enough in there, and set up a profile and either, come say hi, or you can just kind of watch from the sidelines. There's lots of free events going on in there, including our communing series, which is where creators are kind of creating and sharing live events. And then, as I say, if you want to become a creator, then it's £45 a month plus VAT. You can create unlimited resources and we call them collections. So you collect together resources and you get a private community space to run your community as you wish on Circle as well.
And also that last piece is like a sort of like understated real benefit. Like if you're someone who wants to teach a class, workshop, or course and have a little community element, you don't want to pay for Circle yourself, which is expensive these days, to be able to pay for the portal where you can host all the resources and then also get a Circle space for your own Circle space for the people who sign up inside of the broader portal. Like, that's so fucking affordable for what you're charging for that. And I don't think people see that because you're not like when, especially like in a US-based context and you're like, okay, well, I just, I want to do this thing and I'm going to do Circle and I'm going to do all this and it's so expensive. But like, essentially the point of this is like, what if you didn't have to go it alone? What if you could build inside of an ecosystem that's already happening and you get a place to host all your course materials and a private Circle space inside of the portal Circle space to launch from? And also, you get all the support of the other creators in the portal because your people in there, they love the portal. So if you're building and you're like, I don't want to do this alone, it's all right there. This is so exciting, Sally. I know it took me a while to figure out what the portal was and how it worked, but I feel like we elucidated a lot today, and I hope to see a lot of other Off the Grid listeners in there. I hope to be building with you. And for folks who sign up for Come to Class, we're going to have some, I think, like special portal onboarding videos just to try to help you figure out how this works and how it might benefit you. And I'm really excited to be partnering with you on that. So thank you again, Sally, for being here. Thank you, listeners, for tuning in. You can find the portal at jointheportal.com, or that special Off the Grid page is also linked in the show notes. So go check all that out. And until next time, we will see you off the grid.
I kinda hate social media, feeds on my brain like a bacteria. If you read my Wikipedia, it'll say I kinda hate social media. Post a picture of myself, sacrifice my mental health, use your product, time to sell. I would rather go to hell. Do you like this? Okay.
That was an abridged version of Social Media by Surfer Boy and Rectangle. To hear the entire song, find Surfer Boy on Spotify or head to the link in the show notes. Thanks so much to them for sharing the song with us, as well as to Melissa Caitlin Carter, who sings our theme song that you hear at the start of every show. I'm your host, Amelia Fruby, and if you enjoyed this episode, I hope you will download the free Leaving Social Media Toolkit at offthegrid.fun/toolkit. Until next time, I will see you off the grid.